So, I mean, anything else you want to talk about Turtles-wise before we jump into... Well, I want to talk about the actual arcade game itself as well.
Sure.
You want to start there?
Why not?
So, did you play the arcade game first, or did you play the original, the Nintendo version first?
Oh, that's tough. I don't think I can answer that.
You can't remember?
I don't remember. I remember seeing the arcade cabinet. I remember playing it. I remember the artwork. I remember it just... It's one of the more vivid... Other than like Pac-Man, which every arcade had. It's one of the more vivid arcade cabinets I remember seeing as a kid.
Yep, I would agree. I definitely remember having played the arcade game first at somewhere. I couldn't tell you where it was, but it was obviously at like an arcade or a Chuck E. Cheese. I think it was a Chuck E. Cheese, to be honest with you. I think it was because I remember, the artwork with that. Like, it's like, wow, that's a real life April O'Neil, and you know what I mean, on the side of the cabinet. And so I remember playing it. Obviously, I didn't get very far. I don't even think I ever made it to Rocksteady. I just remember being in the apartment building because it was the arcade game was really hard because it was like designed to eat your quarters. And we've played it since then because, again, it's on the collection we talked about earlier. I have a Ninja Turtles arcade cabinet where you basically can just keep hitting the quarter button, right? So with that, it's really kind of a mindless beat 'em up. But my God, like just noticing how much health you lose when you take a hit. Like, I should try that sometime and just like literally like actually keep track of how much quote unquote money I spend playing that game and like see how much I would have blown through as a kid, and to my parents' horror, because it was a really hard game, but I loved it. And then I ended up owning it as a wee lad on Nintendo, but I don't remember how or when I got it. Like, do you have memories of getting the game, or was it just always there for you?
Yeah, it was just there.
Yeah, that same thing. It probably was in a bundle that my mom had bought, but I was, as long as I can remember, because it was released in December of 1990.
Right in time for Christmas. Who would have thunk it?
Yeah, absolutely.
What a coincidence.
So it, by then, we would have had our NES. I would have been only 3 years old, so my memories of that time are obviously fuzzy. So, I remembered always owning it. And so... there were a few differences, and I guess I probably didn't notice them until I went back to play the arcade game as, I got older. Do you remember what some of those differences were, though?
Well, you could pick 4 players in the arcade, obviously. That's number 1.
Yeah, I don't think you could ever do 4, because even with that, they had a multi-tab for the Nintendo, but it didn't work with this game. So it was 2 players only.
I know there was more levels in the Nintendo game. They had some levels.
Yes.
The snow level.
There were more levels. They had the snow level, and then they had like the pagoda level, like a just stereotypical Japanese martial arts movie level.
Pizza Hut logos.
Yeah, there was Pizza Hut logos everywhere.
And in the instruction book, like there was a coupon.
That's right, there was. Oh, did you have the instruction? Like, do you remember
I
having the box
that game? Like, fully owned it.
Well, but I was going to say, I owned a ton of games, but I don't think I ever had any boxes. I had those plastic sleeves that they sat in.
Well, I had the booklets. I wouldn't keep the box, which now it's just like, oh, jeez. The boxes are worth more than some of the games.
Right. Yeah, well, because it was back in the day when, like, they were just cardboard, so, like, what'd you do with them? It's like, you threw them out. Yeah. Just like packaging for a toy. It's, that's how we treated it. No, hit the microphone. But, so... I'm trying to think of other differences. I think those are the big ones. Was they added more content to it. I don't know. They kind of made it. I think for me, I think obviously from a visual perspective, obviously the arcade game is better, but I think this one is more fun, and more replayable, because this is still a pretty hard game. It's not arcade hard. Like, you can beat this game, pretty. Now, did you ever play it 2 player as a kid, or did you? I mean, you were an only child. Did you only ever play it 1 player, or did your parents
probably played with me? Yeah, they probably would put in the controller and stuff. But I feel like the Turtles games, they gradually got easier.
I would agree. Yeah, I think because they were trying to veer away from the arcade difficulty. Would you say they got too easy by the time it was Turtles in Time and Hyperstone Heist, or still the right amount of challenge?
Well, we got to put ourselves in the shoes of like a 6, 7, 8-year-old. So it wasn't terribly... I mean, Turtles in Time is the easiest out of all of them. But if you're 6 years old, it's still not an easy game by any means.
No, I would agree. Yeah, that's fair. because I didn't play Turtles in Time until I was older, and so it was never a game that like was really hard. Like this game, I remember it was like if we could beat Turtles 2, the arcade game, that was a victory, right? Like that was a big deal because, all right, I'm trying to think of how we want to go through discussing this game because I want to talk about like your favorite levels and stuff like that too. But like there were certain levels that like I just dreaded going into because I'm like I'm not gonna beat this. This is the hardest level of the game as far as I'm concerned. Or like so like that snow level they added in the game. It's like okay, so it wasn't just me. That was a hard level,
yeah,
right? And a hard boss that I don't even remember his name, but he was like a polar bear, right? And he would throw like ice boulders at you or whatever, and then basically you would beat him, and then like you destroyed this weather machine and it became springtime, and then you moved on to the next level that was in the original game, which was the other thing too. We didn't even talk about this. So not only did they add levels, they changed bosses for some of the levels. Do you remember that? So originally you fight, let's go through the boss order in the arcade game first. In the arcade game you had Rocksteady first, then you had Bebop, then you had Baxter Stockman in human form in like a ship throwing in the sewers, throwing Mausers at you. Then you go right to the street level, which is now Bebop and Rocksteady together.
Yeah.
And you have to beat 2 bosses, and that's where the arcade difficulty really comes into play. And then I think from there you go to, I don't even know what that is, like where you have to rescue Splinter from the Rock Soldier at the end.
Oh my god.
Like what is that level supposed to be? I'm trying to think. No, there's a skateboarding level in between, but there's no boss. And then, then there's the
Rock Soldier.
The Rock Soldier. I don't know what that's... Is it like a TV set? I can't even tell what that building or area is supposed to be. I never knew. But anyways, you got the Rock Soldier, and then you've got the Technodrome. So I guess from there, it's pretty much standard. But in the NES version, you've got Rocksteady, Bebop, Baxter Stockman. Then you fight Baxter Stockman again. He's the boss of the street level, but first you got that snow level with the polar bear. And the street level, and then the skateboards, and then you've got the same thing, the Rock Soldiers, whatever, rescuing Splinter, and then you've got the pagoda. And I'll tell you what, for the longest time, Lou, I swear to God, I thought the enemy, the boss in that level, was Casey Jones.
Really?
I don't know why. He was a good guy. Don't know why I thought of as Casey Jones, but maybe it's because he was holding a spear that, to me, kind of looked like it could have been a hockey stick. He had long hair and a white mask.
Okay.
Now, his head obviously came off and floated all around, which was kind of weird. That level, though, dude, let me tell you what. That level, the pagoda level, hardest level in the game, in my opinion.
I would definitely say the new levels they added were the most challenging, for sure.
Yes, the snow level and the pagoda. Because, then after that, there's the Technodrome, which was hard. But, because do you remember the tigers that would come out of the wall paintings in the pagoda? And, like, they took a lot of hits and they just beat the crap. Oh, my God.
It was rough.
And I feel... Okay, so I feel like we're jumping around here. Let's start with the...
Let's start at the beginning. Let's start with the first level.
Let's start at the beginning.
It's usually,
let's go through the first level.
Good place to start is the first level, so let's start there.
I guess we'll do it that way, yeah. So the first level is April's apartment. Everything's on fire. You got to go get April. Pretty straightforward, pretty easy.
I like the giant bowling balls that would come down the stairs for some reason.
Rolling down the stairs. I love the fact that there's the different colored foot soldiers, and each one has a different weapon. I thought that was always very cool. I love that you got those robots. I don't even know what they're called. Those little robots with the one wheel that roll around and zap you with the electric whip.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
That? I don't know what he's called. He was in the cartoon. I love that, like, there's, like, references. Like, this is the perfect Turtles game if you love the cartoon, right? Because it came out, on NES, basically mid-season 3 for the series, right? Or 4, I guess it would have been 4, because season 1 came out in 87. So, yeah, season 4, I guess, technically. So, like, prime Turtles watching.
They're at the height.
But I do also feel like most of the bosses that you fight in this game, everything is from season 1, essentially. You got these little robot dudes. You've got, obviously, the main villains, Bebop, Rocksteady. And Rocksteady, by the way, has his little hat on, which he didn't have in the cartoon, but except for the first season. So I thought that was
like
cool.
the music, to me, in the first level is classic.
I think the whole soundtrack is amazing in this game. Like, it's one of the best soundtracks. I feel like Konami is... And it's funny, because this game was released as Ultra Games, which we now know is just, like, a shell corporation for Konami so that they can get around the licensing. But it was... Konami games, to me, have some of the best video game music ever. And it's very distinctly Konami. Like, you can hear I feel like if you were to play a random soundtrack from a Nintendo game, I could tell you within reason, like what company published that game, because they all have a kind of a certain flair to them.
I agree.
But yes, the music in this game, amazing. The first level gets you amped up, ready to go, and it's just you're ready to kick some. Now, to start off, like what turtle was who did you go with?
I mean, as a kid, I think I probably went with Michelangelo, but as I've gotten older, I've gone with Donatello.
Because in certain games, they had certain, like, each character played differently as far as, like, Donatello had a longer reach for his weapon and stuff. I don't think that was the case in this one. I think it was more just, like, aesthetics, which, again, totally fine as a kid. Didn't matter. I always went with Leonardo for, even though I loved Donatello, as a kid, I always wanted to be the leader, so I was always Leonardo.
So, fun fact, you're talking about this game coming out in the height of the Turtles. The third game, for what it's worth. I know we're not going to go into it, but just to know, the Manhattan Project, Turtles 3 on NES, came out 1 year later. So it wasn't like so they were both at the height.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Even the first one technically was at the height, even though it didn't feel like you're playing the cartoon. It was just weird. It didn't didn't really tie back to the cartoon much. But yeah, I mean, you had to, like, this was like, and the third one was, again, I think the third one was a pretty successful game as well as far as in the series. But so when you fought foot soldiers, it was pretty easy to beat them. I think they took like 2 hits and that was it. Now, did you hit them twice, or did you do the other, press the 2 buttons at the same time to kill them in one hit?
As a kid, I didn't know about that.
You didn't know about that? So if you push A and B at the same time, any foot soldier you kill in 1 hit, and that's literally how we would clear out levels, is just swipe. It was like a swipe move, and every turtle did it. It was always the same attack. Now, if you did that in Turtles 3, the Manhattan Project, that's how you did their special move, which would, I think, take away health from you, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I believe so, yes.
And that I did not like. I did not like that they went that route, because that was how I would beat foot soldiers, and it took longer to kill foot soldiers that way. And then, of course, you had like the jumping strike down kick attack, which was great for all the bosses that you would go through. So, all right, we're going through April's apartment. We hear screaming. We end up in the boss room, which is basically just April's apartment. And lo and behold, here comes a module. Out pops Rocksteady, the official first boss of this game.
Yep.
So, what are your thoughts on Rocksteady? I mean, is he a hard boss?
No, I think he was a good first boss. He's a pretty simple, easy, even as a kid, pattern to figure out. With the shooting of the gun straight, shooting it up. The music for the bosses is also very good.
Yep,
I like that.
Absolutely.
I thought it was probably the most fair and only fair boss in the entire game.
Yeah. Now, and it's funny. There's only one boss that I feel like was easier. And it was Baxter Stockman in level 3, and we'll get there. But, like, I would say, Rocksteady was, like you said, a very good first boss fight. It was the first boss fight in any Nintendo game I remember where the boss would glow red or orange when he was almost dead.
And it let you know.
I don't know if that started. Yeah.
Well, it will let you know that you're doing a good job.
Yes, and so you're like, don't give up, he's almost there, and then it would blink faster, and then, like, right before he died, I don't know if that was supposed to be, like, him blinking really fast, but he got, like, fuzzy for some reason. I'm trying to remember what it looked like, and then, like, 2 more hits, and he was done. So, not a hard boss battle, usually pretty easy to get through him. Shredder shows up out of nowhere, steals April, kidnaps her, I guess, technically, because she's a human. And then we move on to level 2,
technically,
which is
they have names for the level. So the first level is Fire. We gotta get April out. That's technically because there's text, remember?
Yeah, but is that supposed to be the level name? I thought it was like Chapter 1 or Chapter 2.
Scene 1,
or
Fire, we gotta get April out, and it took place in the apartment building.
Okay, I mean, I guess that's technically the name of the level. So what is Scene 2
Come
called?
on, after that Shredder creep.
That's a perfect name, because that's exactly what we're doing.
On the sidewalks.
And you're in the streets, you're on the sidewalks of Manhattan. Or, I mean, I'm assuming it's Manhattan. Could it be another borough? Maybe. I don't know.
It's always Manhattan.
What do you... It's Manhattan? Okay, yeah. Do they ever... I was saying, in the comics, do they ever go to other boroughs, or do they just stick with Manhattan?
I think so. I think they're always just in Manhattan.
Are the sewers connected between the boroughs in real life?
Yeah, I think so. I think they're all probably connected.
Okay, so they could theoretically pop up in the Bronx.
No, I mean, maybe. I'm sure. Well, the Turtles, they can swim through the Hudson.
That's oh god, I wouldn't.
And
want to,
why?
but yeah.
What? Nay, why? They're gonna turn into mutants or something? Too little, too late.
Oh man. All right, so level 2, hanging out in the sidewalks, working our way through. This was the first, like, from here, it gets a little different with the level, and I love the level design, too, in these games. So we go, it's like left to right, and then all of a sudden it kind of opens up. You can, like, throw fire hydrant lids at the, you know what I mean? It was like, with my brother, we would always fight over who got to hit the fire hydrant as a kid to, like, knock the foot soldier out, which is stupid in hindsight. But, and then there was the little holes you could fall through, which took your health away. And then, there's an area where you get your first pizza. Like, there's no health in the first level, which is interesting. And then the second level, you've got one pizza. Now, this was a design error in my opinion, but again, it kind of is an artifact of the arcade, era where, like, only one person could get that pizza to get the full health. And so you had to kind of do the math of, like, okay, I've got 2 lives left and only a little bit of health. He's got 1 life left and, like, half health. Who should get that pizza? Well, by default, tell me if you agree with this. By default, whoever has the lower health, regardless of the amount of lives you had, should get the pizza.
Yeah, I would say so.
For the greater good. I think that's what you have to do. So as you get the pizza, do you remember that chick on a skateboard that would go by underneath?
Everybody would hit him. Try to hit her.
You could hit her and she'd scream, and it didn't do anything. But again, that was something we'd fight over, like who got to hit the chick on a skateboard.
Lovely.
Which, yeah, I know, right? But then it kind of scrolls down.
I was going to say, going into the second level, you're talking about the differences between the arcade game and the NES game. In the arcade game, if you beat a level without using a continue, they would spawn more foot soldiers in the next level.
I didn't know that.
In
really?
the NES game,
okay.
that doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen. Now, I think in the NES game, though, if you play with 2 players, there's more foot soldiers than player 1, I think. Maybe.
I believe so. And also, in the arcade game, you beat the level, you don't get your health back. In the NES game, you do.
You start with full health, that's right. Yeah.
Yep.
So it is. It's they definitely
tried
made
to make
it a little
bit
easier
better
for you. Yes, because they wanted you to actually beat it instead of just taking all your money. So you start going downwards, which I thought that was kind of a cool effect, where you scroll downward to keep going down the city block, and then you go around, and that's where you run into the Pizza Hut advertisements, which in the original, I forget what they were, but I think it was only even 1 billboard in the arcade game. But in the NES version, you got 2 Pizza Hut billboards with foot soldiers hiding behind them. And then by then, we're almost to the end of the level. It's not a very long level.
No, it's not. You get Bebop.
We show up at the end, you get Bebop, and what a bastard Bebop was. Rocksteady was like, he was fine. Bebop, I don't know what was so much harder about Bebop. I think it was the fact that he
could use the gun and he could punch.
That's what it was. Whereas, Rocksteady could kick though, but it was
the pattern wasn't.
He let you hit it more.
The pattern wasn't as rough.
Yeah. Plus, Bebop's gun had a range, like it would those rings that would shoot outward, and so like you were more likely to get hit, and then. Yeah. Oh, fuck Bebop. He was the worst, man. That was another hard one. Like, again, level 2, if we beat him, it felt like pretty good about that, because I struggled a lot of times to beat Bebop. And again, this is as a kid. I'm going to be honest. I haven't played this game in a long time, so maybe it's not as hard as we're making it out to be as adults. But as a kid, yeah, it sucked. So we beat level 2. We go to scene 3. What is scene 3 called, Lou?
Scene 3 is called... Well... I guess technically the sidewalk and the sewers are connected together. That's still scene 2.
Really?
Yep.
Okay. Oh, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, they don't have a scene. You're right. So that's... Do we call it level 3 or level 2 part 2?
Scene 2 part 2.
Because I'm trying to remember if you get full health when you go in there. But either way, it doesn't matter. So now we're in the sewers, and we're walking around. And this, again, I remember being a lot easier on the NES than in the arcades, too, because there was a lot less hazards. But you're first introduced to the Mousers, more foot soldiers to fight. This time, the foot soldiers... We haven't even talked about it. Again, we talked about the foot soldiers being color-coded and having different weapons. And each level has introduced new foot soldiers with different... weapons to use. Like the last one had the orange foot soldiers that threw the boomerangs. This time around, you've got foot soldiers. I believe it's in this level. With does this one have hammers? I'm trying to think. Like each level, I feel like has a different foot soldier that you have to fight that's new. And then you've got So, what were your thoughts on the sewer level? Like all in all,
I liked it. I mean, as a kid, it kind of blew my mind. I thought it was amazing.
Yeah,
it's you got the fact that you're not. Because every game had you fighting on the streets or subways, but never in the sewers. And it sounds so stupid now in 2024 to say that, but as a kid, it was amazing.
Yeah, it was, and it was. I felt like it was easier than level, like the first part. I guess the first part of level 2 to get through. Or no, I guess it was a little harder. But the boss at the end of the sewer was a lot easier with Baxter Stockman. That's what I was saying earlier.
Human
all you got to do is human form Baxter Stockman flying around. He's throwing Mausers at you, but you jump kick, and he's done. He's toast.
Not a hard one.
No. So you get there, and then this is where our first divergence off of the original arcade path comes in. It's the snow level.
Let's melt snow and rebuild New York City. Sounds like a slogan.
There it is. That's right. $10 says it probably was like something like, because around this time is when Manhattan was starting to get cleaned up, right? It was like the early 90s. So like maybe this was part of that campaign. Who knows? So you're going through the snow level because a weather machine has made it snowing, which technically did happen in the show. So, it was cartoon accurate. And you had all these freaking snow piles that you could fall through. You had those hopping snowmen. You had the snow plows. Like this, it was a hard level. Like they amped it up. And
Snowy Park, it's called. That's where it's taking place, in Snowy Park. Not to be confused with Central Park. This is a Snowy Park.
Well, I assume it was supposed to be Central Park, But so this again. So and then I'm trying to again. There's like enemies. Like wasn't there something like with the snowman head turned into a rocket or something?
The snowmen were like robots underneath it.
Yes, and so like once you beat them, they're not dead yet. Like you get rid of the snowy layer, and then they're like little robots.
Yep.
That's right. Yep. And then so you go through all that. You get to the end there. I forget the name of the polar bear boss. He doesn't show.
Tora
there we go.
is a Ninja Turtles character, a bounty hunter from the planet Tarragloon. Tarragloon. That's it. He's the only character that's ever come from that planet. And that's it.
He never shows up again.
He fights with his claws and throws big pieces of hail. That's it. That's the entire summary of this character.
Yeah, and you know what? For this game, it works. Again, the fact that I didn't realize these levels were not in the original arcade game, like they felt they belonged, right? Like, and same thing with the boss battles. So I'm fine with it. What were your thoughts on this boss battle?
Confused as a kid, because I never seen him on the show, and they don't make a toy of him.
I thought it was a white rat at first, honestly. I didn't realize it was a polar bear.
Yeah, that was very weird. They put a character, but they've done this in other games too.
Like what?
Put characters that you've never seen before.
I guess, yeah. That's true.
Like think about well, almost every character in the original one, like the fire-walking dude and stuff like that. Like you never see him before.
Oh, well, that was none of those were like anything.
But
really.
The tournament fighters, there's a couple of characters you don't see in the TV show.
No, but I think they're at least from the comics.
Correct,
though.
but if you only watch the TV show, you don't know who
Very
War
confused,
is, or I don't know. I want to say Asuka, but that's WWE. But the Japanese chick that's in it, I don't know who she is.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That's true. So, but again, I feel like this character Tora never shows up in any comics or anything.
Fighting game in all the fighting games had a character, and Hothead was one of them, right? Or was he a character in the show?
I don't know if he was in the show, but he had an action figure. That much I remember. Yeah. But I don't think he was in the show. I think they were toward the end of the action figure run where they were pulling characters from either out of their ass or like from the comic series that never showed up in the cartoon. And I think that might have been one of them. So, all right, we beat the snow level, the Central Park, Snowy Park, whatever. It's spring again, and now we're back. We're back and going through and trying to get April. So April's still kidnapped, by the way. So, but this is the next level where we finally get to April, and I guess we're just in a parking garage or something.
That's what it's
I don't know. It is okay. So it's a parking garage. And, it's pretty standard. This level introduced, like, cars that would drive off on you without warning.
Also, it's cool.
Yes. It was the first time I'd ever seen that. I feel like I've played other beat-em-up games that use that feature. I gotta think they stole it from this game. I can't remember from any game before this that had, like, a moving vehicle that would jump out at you like that.
I agree.
So that always scared me as a kid. Again, just getting through all the foot soldiers, and unlike the arcade where you're fighting Bebop and Rocksteady, this time you are fighting Fly form of Maxter Stockman in order to rescue April, and honestly, a lot easier than the two Bebop and Rocksteady duo boss battle.
Absolutely.
So, I feel like every other level in this game is like easy, hard, easy, hard. I feel like that's kind of the trend that we've been going with, because after you beat Baxter Stockman, again, not a hard boss battle, you get April. Now you're walking on the highway,
Let's
which
get
is
to that
very
secret
unsafe.
factory.
Yeah. This was another level, though, that didn't have a boss battle,
Correct.
I believe. And then it just kind of moved on, and then you jump on skateboards. And then you're kind of going down the highway. Again, we're kind of skipping through these because I realize we probably shouldn't have gone through every single level like this in piecemeal, but
You're almost done, though.
It's not. We're getting there. Jump on the skateboards. You got to kill I guess they're riding in like little mini helicopter. What are those things that the foot soldiers are flying in? Like helicopter things?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
Helicopter things. Did they make a toy of that?
I think they did. That's what I was going to ask you. Is did you had a lot of the vehicles? Do you remember something like this?
I didn't have a lot of vehicles. Maybe I did.
You did. I was so jealous because you had the Technodrome.
I did have the Technodrome. I had the thing, the drill that the bad guys came out of.
The module.
Yep, I had that. I had the turtle van. I had the blimp when my cat popped it. And then they had like a helicopter with like punching gloves on it. Do you remember that?
I think so. I wonder if that's what this is supposed to be.
I don't think so.
That they're flying and shooting at you. I don't know. It might have just been a different
this was for the
vehicle.
turtles. The helicopter.
Oh, the turtles
yeah,
had that.
helicopter with you held it, and like there was a thing on the back, like you held it like a gun, and you would pull the trigger, and like there was, instead of like 2 missiles or rocket launchers in the front, it was 2 boxing gloves.
Nice. Okay. And then, because I had a few of the vehicles back in the day. You know what I had? I don't remember the name of. I had a motorcycle for sure with like a trash can side.
Oh, I
car.
remember that. Yeah.
I don't remember what it was called, but I remember that. And then I remember when I had it was called the toilet taxi.
Okay, maybe.
Do you remember that? And then when it was green, and when it would drive forward, it had 2 plungers that would go in and out like pistons on the front of the car.
It's kind of like what I was describing with the helicopter. Yeah, the same thing.
Kinda, yeah. Oh God. That was so fun. I love those. And then, of course, I had the turtle van. I feel like every kid had the turtle. And actually, I repurchased the re-released version of the turtle van last year or 2 years ago.
I did the same thing with the Ecto 1.
It's sitting up there in my son's closet now, and they love it.
In the box?
No, I took it out.
Mine's in.
It's the what? Yeah, but I don't know. It's not the original, so I'm not going to keep it in the packaging. It's like I got that for him to play with. But anyway, so. We jump on skateboards, again, one of the coolest levels in the game, and I feel like since this game, every single Turtles side-scrolling game has had a skateboard level of some sort, right? Or surfing.
Something to that effect.
Or hoverboards in Turtles, or what is it in Turtles in Time? Is it whatever? They're like flying, whatever.
There's two. They're in the sewers for one.
Surfing,
and then there's, I actually think it's 2020. Because I remember playing it. I remember playing it during COVID. Like, oh shit! Were they wrong?
Right? Oh man. Okay, probably. Anyway, so I feel like this kind of set the stage, and it's really not much different. If you think about it, it's just you standing still and everything's coming toward you instead. You know what I mean? So, but I always love the skateboarding levels. So in this game, you beat the skateboarding level. You just basically last to the end of the highway. You jump in the turtle van, and whoever's driving it is doing a terrible job because they crash right into the railing, the whatever it is, the side of the highway, and then you go overboard and you land somewhere, and that's where I don't know.
You land on, come on, let's bust this joint. And by joint, we mean factory.
Oh, so it's a factory. Okay, so maybe it's one of the Mouser factories or whatever it is. Okay, and then this is another hard level. This is where we're kind of going back and forth. This level was always a pain in the ass for me. Really, the hardest is, I think, one of the harder boss battles at the end when you're fighting that rock soldier. He was really hard because he took a lot of hits.
Granitator. Granitor.
Granitor, yeah, because you had General Trag, and then you had Granitor was his right-hand man. And that's who you fought in this level.
Yeah,
that's right.
I wasn't a fan of this level.
No, the level itself is okay.
Yeah.
The boss battle sucks though, and so I did not like it was really hard. Again, This is assuming I could beat this game. Now, do you remember, unlike the arcade game, you could actually earn extra lives in this game? Do you remember how that worked?
You had to kill 100 foot soldiers, right?
I thought it was 200 even. I remember it was a lot, and like, it was, and then like if you lost all your lives, like you had to continue. You could continue once, I think, or twice. But you also shared continues with your player too. Do you remember that?
I know. I remember up, down, left, right, BA, start.
I didn't know that worked for that game until I was well into my adulthood.
Really?
I didn't know much about the Konami code, and so I didn't realize. And so what did that give you in
more
this
lives.
game? That's all it was more lives? Okay, got it. And you could put it in every time to get more lives?
Only in the title screen.
Okay, so you had to go through, like, you do it one time, and that's it, and then hope for the best. Okay. All right, so that's not too much of an event. It's not like it's cheating. I mean, it kind of is, but, some would say it's evening the playing field.
I'm going to go with that.
Yeah, there you go. So we beat Granitor by the stroke of God, by some luck, and you rescue Splinter because he got kidnapped too. By the way, after you crashed your van there, you see at the beginning of that level they're carrying him off
the mouse
to like wherever.
Yeah,
the mouses are carrying him away. Oh, good shit. So now in the arcade game, this is where you would then go into the Technodrome. But we got one more level on the NES.
We have Let's Defeat the Enemy's Ninja Magic in the dojo. We fight Shogun.
Shogun is his name. Okay, so he's got a name. It's Shogun. We're in a dojo, not a pagoda. And yeah, it's an insanely hard level. So I guess that's 2 really hard levels in a row this time. Actually, pretty much every level going forward is hard. Like there's no more easy levels. We're at the end of the game.
But
almost.
Again, as a kid, even the easy levels, except for the first one, I felt they were all difficult. As a kid.
Mm-hmm. No, they were. They were challenging for sure. But if you play them enough, then I guess that's what it is. Is the early levels are easier because you do play them the most because they're not as hard as the other ones, so you have more time to practice on them. So we're in the dojo, we're getting through, and boy, there are a lot of hazards in this level. There's the bamboo spikes that randomly pop up and knock you back. There's obviously foot soldiers. I believe there's floors that you can just fall through. Which without warning, like I think once you play it enough, you remember, fall where to not walk. And then again, we talked about those tigers. Those tigers were a pain in the ass. Yeah,
well, that'll be a game one day we review.
We'll absolutely cover Street Fighter. So you had the tigers running out at you, and they took a lot of hits, and they just would go back and forth, and you had to time your hits without getting hit. And it was not easy to do, and then eventually you beat them and they like disintegrate or whatever. Then again, by another miracle, we've made it without dying. Game over to the end of this level.
Yep.
We fight Shogun, not Casey Jones, contrary to my popular belief as a child. Another one that was, I don't want to say this was a hard boss. It was a weird boss because his head would come off and float at you, and you had to like destroy the head and the body, I think. Or I'm trying to remember how to beat him in this. Do you remember?
Not really, I don't. It was hard.
I'm trying to think. It was hard, yeah. But I think he was a robot again because you beat him and he explodes or whatever, and so he's supposed to be some kind of robot or something. So you beat that level. Now we're at the Technodrome home stretch. The Technodrome sucks. Again, another staple level of most Turtles games.
This is like
the
a
Technodrome. This is absolutely a gauntlet. I think this level's longer than most of the other levels, too.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So a lot of the levels are pretty short. You get here. This one's got a few different parts to it. You have to go through. You know what? There's one thing I really hate in this level is those random machines that pop up and freeze you into an ice cube. Oh, because you don't remember, and they just show up. And if you hit them quick enough, you can destroy them before they get you.
Turtles in Time also.
But they were here first, though. Yeah, this was where it started. And then you had those giant on-rail laser guns that would scroll up and down that you had to hit enough times to freeze them.
This was the stereotypical NES hard at this point.
Yes, this is an NES hard beat 'em up level. Plenty of foot soldiers to have to go through. Very few health power-ups, and then you got the elevator.
Yeah.
Remember that at the end of it where you would go down? That's another kind of trope of beat 'em ups is the elevator scene where you go down and people just jump on screen and you got to fight them. This one brings back those giant bowling balls that roll at you again.
Bowling balls again.
Bowling balls are back, and then at the end of that, the boss for this part of the Technodrome, The other rock soldier we talked about, General Trag, and he is just as much of a pain in the ass as Granitor, if not more so, because I believe he has a rocket launcher and not a flamethrower. Yeah, so, oh god, he sucked. And again, you beat him. By this point, you've already earned your street cred. Like, there's no doubt about that. But next, you got to go through Krang.
Shredder. All right. Don't tell me how you really feel.
I hated Krang so much. And I remember, too, because if you were to wait long enough at the beginning of the game and not push start, it would do, like, demo mode, right? And one of the things it would show you was fighting Krang. And so, like, that's usually the only time I ever got to see him. And so, by the time you get to him, you probably don't have many lives left. Your health is probably very low. And he's not an easy boss. Because he walks around and he shoots his rocket, I think, and then, like, but he kicks you, and, like, it's just not easy. And then I'm trying to think, with that, once you beat the android body of Krang, do you have to fight flying around Krang in this game, or is that just in Turtles in Time?
I can't remember. I remember the song for him, though, is very unique. It's like
yeah. All of the songs are so good in this game. Okay, again, we're living on a prayer at this point. We beat Krang somehow. Okay. Really cool way to bring in Shredder. The portal closes because you're fighting Krang in a room with the portal and the Technodrome, which if you watch the cartoon, you know exactly where I'm talking about. The portal door's shut. Shredder shows up. It's on. This is it. This is the big kahuna. You're fighting Shredder. And God, is he hard. Because he had that one... It was like a de-evolution, a demutation gun from the original, from the first season, and if he hits you with that, you just lose a life instantly.
That's
You're dead.
Arcade shit.
That's bullshit is what that is. Oh, yeah? Yes. It is bullshit. And so the way to beat him is, because as you're fighting him, you can't just hit him until he's dead. He clones himself, because that's a thing. Why not? And you have to kill the correct Shredder. Because if you kill the clone Shredder, he just reclones himself again, and you gotta do it all over again. Because all the while, he's still trying to zap you with that stupid gun and hit you with his sword. And you have to knock his helmet off. So the way to beat him is you have to knock the helmets off of all the clones. And then once all the helmets are off, you can then pick off the clones one by one until there's only one Shredder left that you beat.
To answer your question you asked me a moment ago, you do not fight Krang, just the brain.
It's just
once you destroy the body, he flies away, and then you fight Shredder.
Okay. That's what I thought. Yep. Okay. But, I mean, it doesn't make it any less stressful.
No, it doesn't. It's still extremely hard.
And this is the one time where they really capitalize on the difficulty if you have two players, because if you're fighting Shredder at one player, he only clones himself one time. If you have two players, there are two Shredder clones plus original Shredder. You have to fight three versions of Shredder at once. So it does, and I'm trying to think in the original arcade game, if you had 4 turtles, he would have 5 Shredder clones.
That's insane.
Yeah. It was in absolute insanity. So, like, you don't really have the player's advantage in that last level there.
Yep.
So, have you ever beaten Shredder? Like, have you ever, like...
Yes, I have.
As a kid, did you ever...
as a kid, no.
As a kid, you never did. This was like, going back to it as an adult, you finally beat Shredder. So you beat Shredder, again, scraping by, but that's it, because that's the end of the game, and the Technodrome blows up, you escape, and, you know, everyone wonders, what happened to Shredder? You got the classic end cutscene, whatever, and then, I guess the credits after that, and then you beat Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game.
By the grace of God and the skin of your teeth. You beat it.
Oh, my God. And how many tries? Jeez, I'm trying to think of how many tries it would have taken me as a kid. Because honestly, once I die game over, I very rarely went back and started over that time. Like, I would need to, like, time away from it because I just had no patience.
Yeah, it's still a rough game, I feel.
As in difficulty, you mean? Yeah, no, absolutely. It's not an easy game even now, even with quick saves and the Konami code. Like, it's still going to stress you out. But it's so fun. There's certain games that are just, like we talked about the first one. It is a hard game, and that difficulty could very easily override any enjoyment you would get out of it. This game is incredibly difficult, and I could pick it up and play it and enjoy it now, 30 years later. like it doesn't matter. Like it's a fun.
It
game.
is a fun. It is fun, but it could be frustrating. But it's best to be played on an emulator or the Cowabunga collection where you could do your save states.
And the rewinds and all that stuff. Yes, because it is incredibly frustrating. I also personally highly recommend playing it with a friend, 2-player, because it's just, it's
well,
more fun.
Speaking of that, if you have the Cowabunga collection, you can play the arcade game online with people.
Yes, and I think you can have all 4 turtles. Like you can have, because there's certain ones they allowed for online. And it's a blast, dude. Like, have you ever played a Turtles game with 4 players?
No, and you know what's funny? I have, in the last month or so, subscribed to the PlayStation, whatever it's called, PlayStation Plus or Premium.
Yeah.
So I could do that. I just completely forget about it sometimes.
Yeah. No, well, it's, oh, God, it's so fun. Yeah, that's Turtles 2, man.
So how about some trivia about the game?
Absolutely. If you got trivia, let's hear it.
How about more like fun facts?
Well, that's trivia. Same thing.
The instruction manual describes the game's plot as being a sequel to the first live-action movie, which is pretty much incorrect because it's based on the cartoon.
Exactly. Yeah.
The instruction manual stage gallery, the screenshot for the sidewalk and the highway level are incorrect. They're swapped.
Okay.
Right?
And see, I never had the instruction manual as a kid, so I would never have known this.
According to game concepts in the Cowabunga collection, Metalhead, who was seen in a couple of episodes from the cartoon, at one point was supposed to be a stage boss but was written out. But he would come back to be in Turtles in Time as a character. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting. He was supposed to be in this. I think if you want to stick him in, it would have made sense to put him in the
Technodrome.
Snow level, I would say.
You think the snow level?
Yep.
Versus because he could use like maybe his machine or whatever controls the weather. That's true. That's a good point.
And then it's interesting that he was supposed to be in this. They didn't use him, and they didn't use him in number 3, but they used him in number 4.
That's right. They did in the Manhattan. It's funny too because you go back to Turtles in Time. Like, there's a couple levels that are literally straight like copies of this game's levels. Like that, the one that Metalhead is in, if I'm not mistaken, is basically just
Alley Cat
Manhattan.
Blues.
Yeah, there you go. It's just Manhattan again. So
it's the sidewalks. It's literally the same thing.
Yeah, and then they have a sewer level and all that stuff.
Sewer
I think, right?
Surfer. Not that I know that game off the top of my head, but I do.
Okay, well, Lou, I already told you we're going to
Battle
cover
my
the
shell at Wounded Knee.
Jesus. Yes. Okay. All right. Well, then let me ask you. Okay, Metalhead for the snow level. Who do you think would have been a good dojo level person, as far as existing characters?
This is before number 2, the second movie.
Correct.
So no Tensu.
Well, Tatsu technically is in the first. He's in the first movie too, though.
So there's your answer.
Okay. So Tatsu. Okay. Yeah. But again, everything
cartoon.
else about this game is cartoon.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm trying to
cartoon.
And again, we're talking seasons 1 through 3 at this point. They could have pulled from.
Slash.
I think Slash would be a great choice.
Yeah.
Okay. And Slash again is somebody that they bring back for
number 4.
Turtles in Time.
Yeah.
Is he in 3? He's not in 3.
I don't think he is.
I can't remember. I haven't played 3 in a long time.
Yeah. That was actually when I got the Cowabunga collection. That was the second thing I played.
Because you never played it before, or had you played it?
I played Hyperstone Heist with my cousin because he had the physical cartridge.
Right.
As an adult, like a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So when I got it, I played Turtles in Time because I'm like, I don't remember playing the arcade version of it.
Yeah.
So I played that, and the second thing I played was the number 3, the Manhattan Project.
Which we'll probably do an episode on in the future. Again, it's not my favorite. It's not a bad game. It's just not. I have no nostalgia for it because I didn't really play it as a kid. So that's the thing. But it's good. It's basically just like if you like Turtles 2, then you're gonna love Turtles 3.
Exactly.
It's more of the same. Which I guess before we started recording, we kind of talked about this too. Like, should a good video game sequel continue the pattern that its predecessor did, or should it try something new? Like, you know what I mean? And so that's one where, like, yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and it was good.
Exactly. Number 1 was probably not very well received. I mean, the sales were probably good because it was Turtles.
Right.
But they had to have known the difficulty was way too hard.
Yeah, no, it absolutely.
And when they were coming out with number 3, they went, well, number 2 did better. Screw it. Keep it, change it up a little bit, and go with it.
Yeah. Do you feel like has there ever been a video game franchise that took a risk and diverted? I guess technically in this case it did because the sequel was different and it was better, but then they stuck with it. But like, can you think of a video game franchise where like almost every sequel is different than the previous one?
Not really.
Yeah, I can't either. I think once you find something that works, you kind of you stick with it and don't take risks, which is fine as long as you make it better. You just improve upon what was working.
I mean, there's been games where the core gameplay is the same, but the mechanics are off or not the same.
Yeah.
But nothing jumps out to me as like, what? This doesn't even make any sense.
So like, okay, and again, this is not a franchise I ever played, so I don't have nostalgia for it, but like Castlevania, right? And then number 2, Simon's Quest. Very different game. But was it better? Obviously, if you watch The Angry Video Game Nerd, you would say absolutely not. But anyone who didn't, I mean, a lot of people did like Simon's Quest. You know what I mean? For what it was. So, like, something like that where, like, it's totally different. Or, like, Zelda Ocarina of Time to Majora's Mask on the Nintendo 64. Yeah. Like, that was a big change.
Well, that was a technology change also.
Well, not really. I mean, Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask were the same.
I'm thinking of something else. Yeah, you're right.
No,
you're
yeah.
Right.
So the two N64 Zelda games looked the same, but, like, very different games. So very different directions for them. Anyway, we're just thinking we can maybe do a whole episode on just discussions like that, but we're just kind of curious. Any other fun facts about this game before we jump into some pop culture discussion?
Not that I see. Nothing really of note other than literally a year later the sequel came out. Like
that's
almost
right.
a year like 365 days later there was a new Turtles game.
And again, if you played it, you know that they probably didn't have to do much to it. Just added new levels, kept the same engine, and boom. Yep. All right. So again, the game was released in 1990. So let's go through some fantastic events in pop culture from that time, which, in case you're keeping score, was almost 34 years ago. Luke.
Gross.
Yes. In the world of music, Vanilla Ice's debut album, To the Extreme, was dominating the charts in 1990, propelled by speaking of Turtles advocates here, Vanilla Ice. His first album, his hit single. Care to give a guess as to what that was?
I can't remember.
Ice, Ice, Baby.
I was going to say that, but I thought it can't be that.
It's literally the only song I know by Vanilla Ice, just for the record.
Yeah, you know another one.
It was...
Go, Ninja, go, Ninja, go.
That's true. Ninja rap.
Yeah.
Anyway... Ice Ice Baby was the first hip-hop single to top the Billboard Hot 100 chart.
So this is December of 90, right?
December of 1990. It would have been after the first movie, but before the second movie.
Okay. Got it.
So, in kind of a, fast rewind another 40 years, the Righteous Brothers' Unchained Melody saw a resurgence due to the release of the film Ghost. Did you ever see that movie,
Yes.
Ghost, with Patrick Swayze?
Yes.
I love that movie. And, of course, Unchained Melody. That's all I think of is that movie now. But it charted very high in December of 1990, even though the song was originally released in the 1960s. In the world of film, here we go. Home Alone was dominating the box office in December of 1990. It came out in November of 1990.
What a shitty game.
I never played the game, actually, of Home
sucked.
Alone. Yeah, I heard it wasn't good. Or the second one, for that matter. But have you seen Home Alone?
Yes.
I mean, I feel like everyone's... Yeah. Okay, yeah. For me, it's like every Christmas I have to watch Home Alone. And it's this one. Like, I'll watch the second one if I have time. I have to watch the first Home Alone. It's one of my favorites. And it was in theaters for a long time, wasn't it? Like, almost a year.
Really?
Like,
That's crazy.
It was like the highest grossing film ever for a while, I think, because it stayed in the box office. So popular. Edward Scissorhands also released in December of 1990. Classic Tim Burton film.
Not a fan.
You've seen it, though? I love that movie. I have such nostalgia. It was one that my mom showed me as a kid. It was so weird, and I didn't really understand it, but I don't care. The dude had freaking scissors for hands, so, come on. That's so cool. And it turned me on to Johnny Depp, so I knew who Johnny Depp was by that point, and the incredible score by Danny. I think I probably even saw this movie, I would have, I guess, before I saw Batman Returns, or the Tim Burton Batman movies. So this was technically the first movie I ever heard Danny Elfman's, composing. In the world of TV, The Simpsons was in its second season.
Oh, God.
In December, right? In December of 1990?
Yeah, rough. Those are the early rough years.
So when in your we've talked about this before, but refresh my memory. When is it, in your opinion, that The Simpsons got good?
Season 4.
Season 4 is when it really picks up. Okay. And is that just because it had a consistency at that point?
The animation got better, the voices got better. I think they knew what they had and where they wanted to go.
Yeah. Speaking of voices, by the way, you know what I did recently? I listened to a clip that had Marge in it from a recent season. Yeah. Gosh, she sounds totally different now, man.
Well, that voice is raspy. It's got to have an effect on your voice after a while, 30 years.
Well, she's starting to sound like her sisters, which I thought was hilarious. Somebody pointed that out. I'm like, yeah,
you're fair. Right.
She sounds just like her chain-smoking sisters. Yeah. Another show that was doing quite well here and far past its prime, Cheers.
Oh, really?
Cheers?
Yeah, my dad
it was in its ninth season in December of 1990.
Really?
It was still part of their must-see TV lineup.
Yeah, Cheers was cool.
I never watched Cheers. Like, there was a lot of sitcoms back in the day. Like, I never watched Seinfeld. Never watched Cheers, Frasier.
Definitely a Seinfeld guy.
I just never was. I mean, I could go back and watch it. I just, never... As a kid, I wasn't, so I don't know. All right, pivoting over to the world of sports here. Not a lot of big events going on, but some fallout from events that were happening, previously. So, for example, the 1990 World Cup, though it happened in July, the impact continued to be felt through the remainder of the year, as we saw various awards and recognitions given to teams and players, and looking back on the tournament's memorable moments, because again, only every 4 years is kind of a big deal when there's a World Cup, even to this day. Do you happen to remember? I don't remember who won the World Cup that year.
No idea.
Yeah, okay. Same
Brazil?
Here. Okay. Probably, yeah. That's usually a good guess. And then in the world of basketball, the 1990-1991 NBA season was in full swing in December of 1990. The Chicago Bulls were kicking ass and establishing themselves as serious contenders, once again led by Michael Jordan. This is actually the beginning of their first championship season.
Yeah, I was going to say, when in doubt, like, who won the NBA championship in 19...
Yeah,
it's the Bulls. Yeah, it's probably a Bull.
The Bull or the Lakers? Like, I feel it was like the Bulls or the Lakers in the 90s, right? Or was the Lakers more the 2000s?
Lakers were probably more the 2000s with Kobe.
That's fair. Yeah. That's true with Kobe. Which that was... I'm so glad to have you back, because last episode, I fed it to her, too. I was like, in 1996, what famous NBA player had his rookie season? And she's like, Michael Jordan? I'm like, no. LeBron James?
LeBron James.
She was all over the place, man.
Mr. Shaquille O'Neal.
I know, yeah. No. I think his was like 90, though, right?
Maybe.
I mean, wasn't it? I don't remember. I didn't follow Shaq's career. I don't really follow any basketball. All right, fine. Then let's pivot over to the world of professional wrestling, the only true sport that matters.
Yep.
Who was WWF champion in December of 1990?
December of 90, which means we're going to WrestleMania 91, which is WrestleMania 7. Hogan Slaughter, which means Slaughter won the title at Rumble 91 in January, so Warrior.
Warrior in December of 1990 is what you're saying? I'm going to look this up and confirm it. I think you're absolutely right. Yep. But we're going to confirm that real quick, because he would have won it from Hogan at WrestleMania.
Well, you can just type in 1991 Royal Rumble and see.
Yes. Oh, there you go. Yeah. Okay, so Warrior did win it. He won it in April 90, obviously. And he lost it to Sergeant Slaughter very soon after this, though, January 91 at the Royal Rumble.
To set up Hogan versus Slaughter at WrestleMania and set up Warrior Savage, which I think is probably Warrior's second greatest match.
I mean, yeah, as far as WrestleMania's matches go, I think that was another one where the undercard outshined the main event.
Oh, that was one of the worst main events of all time.
Hogan Slaughter? Yeah, absolutely.
Like, Hogan was going to lose. Come on.
Yeah, come on. Jeez. And it's fine if you know who's going to win, as long as the match is good.
Yeah.
Like, we knew Cody was going to win at WrestleMania 40. I mean, the most part.
Did you?
For the most part, I knew that Cody was going to win. And it's fine. Like, I still wanted to go along for the ride. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm taking a road trip to Disney World, I know where I'm going to end up. So I'm going to enjoy the car trip on the way if I can. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Anyway. All right, man. It's going to wrap up episode 6 of the podcast, of the new podcast. What do you think? I feel like this was a good game, right? I feel like this. I feel like this is. We're still figuring out the direction of like how to like rank games, but like I want to do it like, would it hold up today? How is it visually? I mean, what else? Like, would that be the big like?
Just go with those two.
Okay, fine. Okay, graphics-wise, does this game hold up today?
Well, obviously not. It's an NES game.
Okay, but like as far as like, well, there's certain games visually speaking that are enjoyable to look at. You know, pixel art is charming, right?
Yeah.
Like Mario 3, which we'll absolutely do an episode on in the future. It's an NES game, but it looks great to play. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think it looks good.
Out of the 4, because there's 4 NES games that are for the Turtles, kind of the tournament fighters.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's there.
True.
It's there.
No, it's there.
I would
It'll
say
never get covered on this show.
Graphically, this is the best one.
Yeah, I would say this one looks better than number 3, Manhattan Project.
I agree.
Which is, I think, why I like it more, because it's a crisper-looking game. And then, okay, does it hold up today as far as could you pick this up and play it and have a good time in 2024?
Yes and no.
Okay.
If the arcade game doesn't exist and you didn't have access to it, I would say
if it never came back in any form and this was your only choice.
I would say yes.
So,
but since it's so easy to get a hold of the arcade game now, I would say no, it doesn't.
That for you, that's more fun.
Yes, because so many people played that. Because
that's true.
Even if you didn't have a Nintendo, or if you had a Nintendo, you didn't have this game. If you couldn't swing it, or your parents couldn't swing it, you were able to get a quarter. Drop that quarter in, and you at least played that game for 5 minutes.
That's true. That's a very good point. Okay, fair enough. Because I do love the arcade game. Again, I have it upstairs in my house. Yeah. Like, it's fun to just go play and bug out. It doesn't take long to beat either. Like, if you load yourself up with lives at the beginning, like we'll
cowabunga.
Yes. So we'll get like 60 lives and then just power through it. It's it's fine. Yeah. I disagree only because I do love the arcade game, but I still feel like I would enjoy this going back and playing this as an adult. It holds up. And especially as far as Nintendo games are concerned, it absolutely is far more replayable than other Nintendo. We should we'll come up with a system of like on a scale of like we'll find some really shitty game for the bottom of the spectrum that you would never touch again, and like the ultimate best NES game ever, which in my opinion is probably like Mario 3 or Punch-Out as far as replayability. Like that's where like okay, on a scale of that, where would you put? You know what I mean? Anyway, so
yeah, I mean I would put it like a. Here's the thing, though, and there's not a lot of great NES games. A lot of them are either too simple or they're too hard because they're trying to be an arcade game still, or they're trying not to be an arcade game and they're not just there yet.
Yeah,
it's hard, but it's playable. It is beatable.
I would agree.
So
those are the best Nintendo games, though.
Yeah, especially because you got like one a year.
Yes.
And here, play this game for a year till the next one comes out.
Yeah, and by then you were a master of it if you put the time in.
It's not a bad game. It's not a great game. The arcade game being available hurts its legacy to me, but it still has its charm for sure.
Yeah. Okay. All right, fair enough. Would you play a remake of the arcade game? Or do you feel like we have enough other games where it wouldn't really add much?
You can't really say a remake of this because a remake of this is also a remake of the original arcade game.
Right. Well, but I'll pose that question. Like, would you play a remake of the original arcade game?
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay. All right. Fair. All right. Well, then, that brings us to the end of episode 6 of Backwards Compatible, a Generation S retro gaming podcast. So thank you for listening. And this is the part where I tell you all about how you should tell your friends to listen to the show and check us out. I Googled it, by the way. I Googled Backwards Compatible podcast. We show up top of the list.
Nice.
So that's exciting. So make sure if you're having your friends check the show out, they can just Google it. We're on every podcast platform imaginable, including the one you're listening to it on right now. See what I did there? And we'll be back next week with episode 7, and let's just go ahead and let the cat out of the bag. Assuming nobody's sick.
Not my fault.
We are going to be talking all about one of your favorite games of all time, Lou, which is why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
We're talking Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo.
Definitely top 10 game all time for me. Might even be in the top 5.
Yes. Well,
Absolutely love that.
I didn't have a Super Nintendo growing up, but best believe I played the hell out of this game any chance I could.
So how have you played it then?
I had friends, man. I had family. I had I had one cousin that I would visit every summer, and she had a Super Nintendo upstairs, and like I played that, and I played what else? I played Kirby.
Oh, good game.
I played Mario RPG. Like she had the goods, right? She had the hookup. So I played my fair share of Super Mario World. Trust me. And of course, as an adult, beaten it multiple times. Yeah, we got a lot to talk about that game. All right. Until then, make sure, again, leave a review for us on your favorite podcast platform. Check out the merch page. That's still there, and we are working on a backwards compatible T-shirt. If you want to support the new venture here on Generation S, on the GSPN, the Generation S Podcast Network. See what
I like that.
I'd probably get sued for saying it, but GSPN. Check out the merch page. Support the channel that way would be amazing. Check us out on YouTube. We're putting out some great content. You may actually already be listening to this on YouTube, so you're already there. Good for you. But if you're listening to this by traditional means, check us out on YouTube, putting out videos every single week. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, all that fun stuff. And until then, next week, all about Super Mario World. That's a wrap for this week, episode 6. We'll talk to you soon.
Goodbye.